The silent power of awareness is where transformation begins. Awareness is not loud, it does not scream, and it does not fight. It is subtle yet unshakable. It is the quiet flame inside you that cannot be blown out by lies, manipulation, or deceit. Toxic people thrive on your blindness. They thrive when you do not see clearly, when you misinterpret their poison as love, when you mistake their control for care. The moment you open your eyes to what they really are, you take the first step toward freedom. Awareness is the shift from confusion to clarity. It is the realization that their actions are not a reflection of your worth, but a projection of their wounds. Psychology shows us that awareness changes the brain. It activates the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for reasoning and control, instead of letting the emotional brain react blindly. This is why the very act of naming a toxic behavior weakens its hold on you. When you say to yourself, "This is manipulation, this is gaslighting, this is control," the power of their game begins to fade. You stop taking their poison personally. You stop blaming yourself for their storms. The silent power of awareness is not about fighting back with words. It is about watching with clarity. Toxic people want chaos. They want you to react instantly, to explode, to cry, to chase, to explain yourself endlessly. But awareness creates space. You pause before reacting. You see the trap before stepping into it. And in that space, you become untouchable. You stop playing their game, and the game cannot continue without your participation. Think of it like standing above a chessboard. While others are lost in the moves, you see the whole board. Toxic people count on you being blind to their strategy so they can manipulate the pieces as they wish. But once you rise above, you recognize their patterns. You see how they bait you, how they play victim, how they use guilt as a leash. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. That vision itself is power. Awareness also brings courage, because once you understand that their behavior is not your fault, you release the shame they tried to chain you with. You realize that their criticism is projection, their control is insecurity, their cruelty is weakness, and their love, if it ever existed, was conditional. This clarity hurts at first, but it also heals, because when you see them for what they truly are, you finally start to see yourself for who you truly are. Stronger, wiser, free. Research in psychology confirms this. Toxic dynamics lose power when you detach your identity from them. Awareness helps you separate the story they tell about you from the truth of who you are. For years, maybe you believed their words, that you were not enough, that you were too difficult, that you could never survive without them. But awareness cuts through these lies like a sharp blade. You begin to see the difference between reality and illusion. And once you see, you cannot go back to sleep. The silent power of awareness is also protective. Imagine walking in a forest. If you are unaware, you step on snakes without realizing, you wander into thorns, you fall into traps. But with awareness, you notice the signs. You step carefully. You choose your path with intention. Toxic people are the same. Their traps are hidden in charm, in flattery, in promises. But awareness keeps you cautious. It keeps you alert. It keeps you safe. This does not mean you walk in fear. No. Awareness is not fear. It is clarity. Fear says, I must avoid everything. Awareness says, I know what I am dealing with, and I choose wisely. Toxic people lose their power the moment you stop moving blindly, because once you are awake, they cannot trick you again with the same games. They may try, but you will see through it, and the more you see, the stronger you become. This silent power is the foundation of every other strategy. Without awareness, you cannot set boundaries because you don't even realize they are being crossed. Without awareness, you cannot detach because you mistake manipulation for love. Without awareness, you cannot choose peace because you don't even see the war being waged against your mind. Awareness is the beginning of all strength. It is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not demand recognition, but it transforms you silently from the inside out. Toxic people hate awareness because it strips away their illusion. They can no longer deceive you. They can no longer control you. They can no longer use your blind spots against you. Awareness turns on the light in a room they wanted to keep dark forever. And when the light shines, their shadows are exposed. Remember this, your awareness is your weapon, not anger, not arguments, not revenge, just awareness, because the one who sees clearly is the one who holds the real power, and once you awaken, you will never again allow yourself to be chained by those who feed on your silence. Awareness frees you. Awareness empowers you. Awareness is the quiet, unshakable strength that no toxic person can ever defeat. Detachment is not weakness. It is mastery. It is the art of refusing to let toxic people control your emotions, no matter how much they try to provoke you. Toxic people feed on reactions. They thrive when you shout, when you cry, when you explain yourself endlessly. Every burst of anger, every tear, every defensive word fuels their power. But when you remain calm, when you give them nothing, their entire strategy collapses. Emotional detachment is not about being cold. It is about being unshakable. It is about owning yourself so completely that no one can drag you into their chaos. Toxic people know exactly how to trigger you. They study your weaknesses. They know which words cut deepest, which silences make you anxious, which tricks make you feel guilty. They play on those patterns like a piano, but psychology shows us that once you become aware of these triggers, you can rewire your response. You are not forced to react on instinct. You can pause, you can breathe, you can choose silence instead of rage, and in that pause you reclaim control. Detachment does not mean you stop feeling, it means you stop letting your feelings be hijacked. Imagine your emotions as the steering wheel of a car. Toxic people want to grab it and drive you into the wall. Detachment is taking your hands back, refusing to let anyone else steer. You still feel anger, sadness, or disappointment, but you no longer let those emotions dictate your actions. You observe them without becoming them. That is power. Research in neuroscience reveals that calmness disarms aggression. When you remain composed, the other person's brain loses momentum. They expect fire. They expect chaos, but when you stay centered, they feel powerless. Their words hit like arrows against a shield that does not break. That shield is emotional detachment. You may not win the argument, but you win the war, because you refuse to play it. Toxic people crave drama. They want a stage, and they want you to be their actor. Detachment denies them that performance. You give them silence instead of rage, indifference instead of attention, calmness instead of chaos. At first, they may push harder, desperate for a reaction. They may try new tactics, more cruel, more manipulative. But the longer you hold your peace, the more they suffocate in their own game, because your lack of reaction forces them to face themselves. And that is what they fear most. Emotional detachment is not easy. It takes discipline. It takes awareness. It takes strength to remain calm when every part of you wants to fight back. But this discipline is what separates the strong from the weak. It is what separates those who are controlled from those who control themselves. Detachment is not avoidance. It is not suppression. It is mastery over yourself in the face of chaos. Think about how fire works. If you pour gasoline on it, it grows stronger. If you starve it of oxygen, it dies. Toxic people are the fire. Your emotional reactions are the gasoline, but detachment, silence, calmness, stillness is the lack of oxygen. Without it, their fire fades. They burn themselves out, and you walk away untouched. Detachment also protects your health. Studies show that constant emotional stress damages the heart, weakens the immune system, and clouds the mind. Toxic people are a source of that stress. Every argument, every fight, every emotional storm they pull you into takes years off your life. But detachment protects your energy. It keeps your body calm, your mind sharp, and your spirit unbroken. Choosing detachment is choosing life over destruction. Some may confuse detachment with coldness, but in truth, it is love for yourself. It is the refusal to let anyone else decide how you feel. It is the choice to rise above rather than drown below. When you detach, you are not saying you do not care. You are saying, I care about my peace more than your chaos. And that is the smartest choice you can ever make. Detachment is also strategy. When you do not react, you gain time, you gain perspective, you see the situation clearly without being blinded by anger or fear, and in that clarity you make smarter decisions. Toxic people want you to react instantly because instant reactions are weak and sloppy. But your calmness is calculated, your silence is intentional, your response, if you even give one, is chosen, not forced. That is how you win without ever fighting. The art of emotional detachment is the art of owning yourself. It is about refusing to let anyone else decide your state of mind. Toxic people cannot survive without reactions. They need your energy, your fire, your drama. Take it away, and you starve them. Stay calm and you disarm them. Detach and you free yourself. In the end, detachment is not the absence of love or feeling or care. It is the presence of power. It is the quiet declaration that your emotions belong to you and no one else. Toxic people may try to provoke you, but the one who masters detachment always wins, because no one can control a soul that controls itself. Boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. They are not walls of weakness, but gates of strength. And the moment you learn to set them without apology, you take back the control that toxic people have stolen from you. Boundaries are the invisible lines that say, this is where I end, and this is where you begin. They protect your time, your energy, your peace, and your worth. Toxic people hate boundaries because they strip away their power, but you need them. Without them, you drown in other people's demands, manipulations, and chaos. With them, you rise, unshaken, untouchable. The psychology of boundaries is simple. People respect what you consistently protect. If you allow others to cross your lines again and again, they will assume they have the right. Toxic people exploit this weakness. They push further each time you bend. They take until there is nothing left. But when you set a boundary and hold it firmly, you send a message. You teach others how to treat you. Boundaries are not about controlling them. They are about controlling yourself. They are about saying, I will not give you access to parts of me you do not deserve. Toxic people will resist. They will test you. They will accuse you of being cold, selfish, or cruel. They will twist the narrative and paint themselves as victims. Why? Because your boundary removes their control. But here is the truth. You do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting yourself. Boundaries spoken with confidence require no defense. A simple no is a complete sentence. Silence after that no is power. When you explain too much, you give them space to argue. When you apologize, you hand them your strength. Boundaries must be firm, unapologetic, and consistent. Research in psychology shows that people who set healthy boundaries experience less stress, less resentment, and higher self-respect. Boundaries are an act of self-love. They tell your mind and body, I matter. My peace matters. My energy matters. Without them, you betray yourself. You abandon your own needs in order to please others. And toxic people are experts at exploiting that weakness. They prey on those who fear conflict, those who always give in, those who always say yes. But the moment you say no with strength, the spell breaks. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They separate what is yours from what is not. You are not responsible for fixing others. You are not responsible for carrying their burdens, solving their chaos, or healing their wounds. That is their path, not yours. Boundaries free you from guilt. They remind you that you can love people without allowing them to drain you. You can care without caring. You can support without sacrificing your soul. Think of boundaries as the locks on your home. Would you ever apologize for locking your doors at night? Would you ever feel guilty for keeping strangers from walking in and taking what they want? Of course not. Yet so many feel guilt when locking the doors of their emotional world. Boundaries are the locks that protect your spirit. Toxic people want easy access. They want the door wide open so they can enter at any time, take what they want, and leave chaos behind. But once you install firm boundaries, they no longer hold the keys. And that terrifies them. Boundaries also reveal truth. Watch how someone reacts when you say no. Healthy people will respect it. Toxic people will rage against it. They will test your strength, hoping you will bend. And in that moment, you see their true nature. Boundaries expose the selfish, the manipulative, the controlling. They shine a light on who values you and who only values your compliance. That clarity is a gift, even if it hurts. Because once you know who you're dealing with, you can choose wisely. Setting boundaries is uncomfortable at first, especially if you are used to pleasing others, especially if you fear rejection or conflict. But with practice, it becomes easier. Every time you say no, you strengthen your backbone. Every time you enforce your limit, you reclaim a piece of yourself. And over time, you realize that people's disappointment is not your responsibility. Their anger is not your burden. Their reaction is not your problem. Your only responsibility is to protect your peace. Boundaries are not only about saying no to others, they are also about saying yes to yourself, yes to rest, yes to respect, yes to growth, yes to environments that nourish instead of drain. When you protect your energy, you attract people who respect it. Healthy people are drawn to strength. Toxic people are repelled by it. And that is how boundaries filter your life, leaving only what is good, true, and worthy. In the end, boundaries without apology are freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from constant stress, freedom from living for everyone but yourself. They do not make you cruel. They make you strong. They do not make you selfish. They make you whole. Every boundary you set is a declaration that you value yourself enough to guard your peace. And that is the one thing toxic people cannot stand, because a person with strong, unapologetic boundaries is a person they can no longer control. Control begins within. The greatest mistake people make with toxic individuals is trying to control the outside, trying to correct their lies, fix their chaos, or change their behavior. But toxic people thrive in that space. They thrive when you chase them, when you defend yourself, when you fight their version of the story. Every time you react, they win. Every time you argue, they twist. Every time you explain, they distort. But when you control yourself, your words, your emotions, your choices, you take away their weapon. The smartest way to control the narrative is not to fight their noise, but to master your silence, your calmness, and your integrity. Toxic people live in manipulation. They twist reality to suit their image. They play victim, even while they hurt others. They spread lies to damage reputations. They exaggerate stories to make themselves appear powerful. And the more you try to fight those lies directly, the deeper you sink into their web. This is the trap. They want you reactive. They want you desperate to prove your truth. But psychology shows us something vital. People who remain calm, consistent, and self-controlled appear more credible over time than those who lash out emotionally. In other words, your restraint becomes your power. Controlling yourself is about refusing to let them dictate your responses. They want you to explode in anger so they can call you unstable. They want you to chase after them so they can call you desperate. They want you to defend endlessly so they can call you guilty. But when you choose calm, when you refuse to be baited, you take back the narrative. You don't even have to defend yourself. Your steadiness speaks louder than their lies. Imagine two people. One screams, twists, and spreads poison. The other remains calm, consistent, and firm. Over time, who do you think people trust? Not the loudest voice, not the one with the most accusations. People trust the one who controls themselves. This is the psychology of credibility. Chaos might win for a moment, but truth, backed by steady character, always outlasts it. Toxic people will say things about you. They will try to destroy how others see you. But the only thing worse than their lies is you lowering yourself to their level. When you engage in the same tactics, you validate their game. When you argue back and forth, you both look small. But when you hold your ground in silence, when you continue to live with integrity, people eventually see the truth, because masks slip, lies crumble. But your consistency endures. Control also means choosing where to put your energy. You cannot waste your life correcting every false story, every rumor, every whisper. That is exactly what they want, to drain your energy into defending instead of building. But when you stop chasing their lies, you redirect that energy into your growth, your peace, your goals. That is how you win, not by proving them wrong, but by proving yourself right through the life you build. Psychology has a principle called cognitive dissonance. When someone's words and actions do not align, people feel tension. Over time, observers resolve that tension by trusting the actions over the words. Toxic people rely on noise. But if your life consistently reflects integrity, people will trust what they see. That is why controlling yourself matters more than fighting them. Their lies may be loud, but your truth, lived quietly and consistently, will last longer. Controlling the narrative is not about silencing others. It is about silencing your own impulses to react. It is about mastering the urge to prove yourself, to chase, to explain, to correct. Because toxic people weaponize your reactions against you. They take your every word, twist it, and use it to strengthen their story. But they cannot twist what you do not give. Your silence leaves them with nothing. Your calmness leaves them powerless. Your discipline makes their games useless. This is not easy. It takes strength to watch lies spread without defending yourself. It takes courage to let people misunderstand you for a season. It takes patience to trust that the truth will reveal itself in time. But this strength separates the powerful from the powerless. Weakness is chasing every rumor. Strength is standing tall in silence, knowing your character will speak louder in the end. Control yourself, and you control everything. Control your words and you prevent them from being twisted. Control your emotions and you stop them from feeding on your anger. Control your choices and you refuse to play the role they want you to play. This is how you win without fighting. This is how you break their cycle. In the end, the truth is simple. You cannot control what toxic people say about you, but you can control what you give them to work with. You cannot control their lies, but you can control your response. You cannot control their chaos, but you can control your peace. And when you do, the narrative no longer belongs to them. It belongs to you. Control is power, not control over others, but control over yourself. Toxic people may try to own the story, but they cannot own your truth. They cannot own your calm. They cannot own your silence. And in the end, the one who controls themselves controls the game. That is the smartest way to take the narrative back, by mastering yourself, not them. Attention is power. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And toxic people know this better than anyone. They live off your reactions, they feed on your focus, they crave your anger, your explanations, your endless attempts to make them understand. Every time you give them attention, you give them life. But the moment you withdraw it, you starve them. The withdrawal of attention is not weakness, it is warfare. It is a quiet strategy that dismantles their control piece by piece until they are left with nothing to feed on but their own emptiness. Toxic people are addicted to being seen, heard, and recognized. Whether it is through praise, pity, or even conflict, they demand the spotlight. They don't care if the attention is positive or negative. What matters is that they are the center of your world. This is why they provoke arguments, why they guilt trip, why they create chaos. Drama is their fuel, and your attention is the oxygen. But here's the truth. If you take away the oxygen, the fire dies. Without your energy, without your gaze, without your reaction, they suffocate in their own emptiness. Psychology confirms this. Behavior that is not rewarded eventually fades. This is called extinction in behavioral science. Toxic people keep playing their games because you keep responding. The moment you stop rewarding their manipulation with your focus, you take away their incentive. They may try harder at first, louder accusations, sharper insults, crueler tactics, but over time, if you stay consistent, their grip weakens. They move on to find someone else who will feed them what you refuse to give. Withdrawal of attention does not mean passive weakness, it is active strength. It is the discipline of silence when they expect rage. It is walking away when they expect you to chase. It is refusing to answer when they demand a fight. Every moment you deny them attention, you reclaim your energy. You protect your peace. You stop pouring water into a bottomless pit. And in that silence, you grow stronger while they grow smaller. But here is where most people fail. They give attention without realizing it. Attention is not only words or actions, it is also mental space. If you replay their insults in your head, if you obsess over their lies, if you constantly explain their behavior to others, you are still feeding them. Even when they're not around, toxic people can live rent-free in your mind. True withdrawal of attention is not just external, it is internal. It is the decision to no longer let them occupy your thoughts, your heart, or your soul. This requires practice. At first, your mind will want to return to the pain, the drama, the betrayal. That is normal. Toxic people are like addiction. They train your brain to crave their chaos, to look for closure, to seek validation that will never come. But every time you redirect your thoughts, every time you shift your focus to something higher, you weaken that pull. You rewire your brain to detach from their poison and attach to your purpose. Detachment is freedom. Imagine your attention as a spotlight. For too long, toxic people have stood in the center, feeding off its glow. But you can turn the light elsewhere. Shine it on your growth. Shine it on your goals. Shine it on people who uplift you, inspire you, and value you. The more you redirect the spotlight, the less room there is for them. Eventually, they are left in the dark, powerless, irrelevant. Withdrawing attention also reveals truth. Watch what happens when you stop feeding them. Do they respect your silence or do they rage against it? Do they let you go or do they chase harder? Toxic people exposed to indifference are forced to face their dependence on your energy. And in their desperation, their mask begins to crack. You finally see their emptiness. You see that their power was never real. It was borrowed from your reactions. Some will accuse you of being cold or heartless when you pull away. They will call you selfish for refusing to give them endless attention. But remember this, attention is the most valuable currency you have. You are not obligated to spend it on those who only drain you. Protecting your focus is not cruelty. It is wisdom. It is self-respect. It is survival. Withdrawing attention is also the most silent form of strength. You don't have to argue. You don't have to defend. You don't have to prove anything. You simply refuse to give them what they want most, your energy. And that silence is louder than any argument. It is a rejection they cannot twist, a weapon they cannot steal, a move they cannot counter. In the end, the withdrawal of attention is liberation. Toxic people cannot survive without an audience. They cannot play their games without participants. And once you stop playing, the game ends. Your silence becomes your victory. Your indifference becomes your revenge. And your attention, once wasted on poison, becomes fuel for your own growth, your own peace, your own transformation. Remember this truth. The greatest punishment you can give a toxic person is not hate, not anger, not revenge. It is nothing, because nothing starves them, nothing weakens them, nothing forces them to face their own emptiness more than the absence of your attention. And when you master that, you master yourself. Strength is not built in isolation. It is multiplied in the presence of the right people. Toxic individuals want you alone. They want you cut off, doubting yourself, with no one to remind you of your worth. Isolation is their weapon, because when you stand by yourself, their lies echo louder and their control feels heavier. But when you surround yourself with strength, people who uplift, people who respect, people who challenge you to grow, the power of toxic influence fades into nothing. Psychology proves this. Human beings are wired for connection. The people around us shape our thoughts, emotions, and even our identity. Toxic people know this truth, which is why they try to isolate you from healthy voices. They whisper doubts about your friends. They plant seeds of mistrust. They drain your time until you have none left for those who truly matter. Why? Because they know that once you are surrounded by strength, their grip shatters. You begin to see yourself through the eyes of those who actually value you, instead of through the lens of their manipulation. Surrounding yourself with strength is not about numbers. It is about quality. One person who believes in you can outweigh 10 who try to destroy you. One honest voice can silence 100 lies. One supporter who reminds you of your worth can break chains forged by years of manipulation. Toxic people want you to believe you have no one. But the truth is, the moment you start seeking real strength, you will find it. And once you let it in, your resilience grows beyond what any toxic person can handle. Strength in others also teaches you strength in yourself. Supportive people mirror back your power. They remind you of your progress when you doubt. They call you out when you settle for less. They hold you accountable when you forget your value. This reflection is vital, because toxic people do the opposite. They distort your reflection. They make you believe you are small, powerless, unworthy. But strong people restore the truth. You are more powerful than you think, and you are never alone. Imagine a toxic person trying to manipulate you in a room full of people who know your worth. They cannot twist the story as easily. They cannot break your spirit as quickly. They cannot isolate you in the shadows because you are surrounded by light. This is the power of strong circles. They act as shields. Their presence alone weakens toxicity. Their voices remind you of reality when manipulation tries to cloud your vision. But here is the key. You must choose your circle wisely. Not every crowd is strength. Some people disguise themselves as friends while quietly draining your energy. Surrounding yourself with strength requires discernment. Look for those who celebrate your growth, not resent it. Seek those who respect your boundaries, not test them. Walk with those who bring you peace, not chaos. True strength feels calm, consistent, and empowering. It does not demand, it does not drain, it does not manipulate. It builds. Research on resilience shows that people with supportive relationships recover faster from stress and trauma. Your environment can either heal you or break you. That is why toxic people try so hard to control it. But once you choose to build an environment of strength, you become untouchable. Because no matter how hard they try, they cannot outshout the collective truth spoken by those who actually love you. Surrounding yourself with strength also means investing in yourself. It means joining communities that uplift you, learning from mentors who guide you, spending time with people who embody the life you want to live. Strength attracts strength. The more you grow, the more you align with others who are on the same path. And together, you become a force that toxic individuals cannot penetrate. Some may say, but what if I have no one? Then your first step is to become your own strength. Build yourself until your energy attracts the right people. Read, learn, train, heal, and when you walk in strength, you naturally draw others who resonate with that energy. Toxic people thrive on weakness, but they flee from environments filled with resilience and growth. Your journey may begin alone, but it does not have to end alone. Surrounding yourself with strength is not only about protection, it is about transformation. Because in strong company, you rise higher, you think bigger, you dream bolder. Toxic people shrink your world, strong people expand it. Toxic people clip your wings. Strong people remind you that you were made to fly. And once you taste that freedom, you will never again tolerate the chains of toxicity. In the end, the smartest way to deal with toxic people is to weaken their influence by amplifying the voices of strength around you. Their poison cannot spread in healthy soil. Their lies cannot survive in the presence of truth. Their control cannot hold when you are surrounded by those who remind you of your worth. Strength is contagious. Surround yourself with it. Protect yourself with it. Grow with it. Because when you are surrounded by strength, no toxic person can ever truly break you. They may try, they may push, they may scream, but their power fades in the presence of real strength. And in that circle, you stand untouchable. Cannot chain what keeps growing. Toxic people thrive on keeping you in the same place. They need you predictable. They need you stuck. Because as long as you remain within reach of their games, their poison works. But the moment you grow beyond their grasp, you shatter their control. Growth is not just personal development. It is escape. It is freedom. It is the silent act of becoming untouchable. Growth begins with awareness, but it does not end there. Many people recognize toxicity but still remain bound by it. Why? Because recognition without movement changes nothing. You must expand. You must evolve into someone who no longer fits in the cage they built for you. When you grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even professionally, you create distance. Their words shrink in relevance, their manipulations lose power, and their attempts to pull you back fall flat against your rising strength. Understand this: toxic people hate growth. They resent progress. They fear your elevation because it exposes their stagnation. Every step you take toward better habits, higher standards, or deeper self-respect is a blow to their influence. You don't even have to fight them. Your progress itself becomes the fight. They will try to hold you back, not because they truly care for you, but because they fear being left behind. Their comfort depends on your limitation. Your discomfort feeds their control. This is why growth must be relentless. Toxic people often use guilt, shame, or manipulation to keep you where you are. They whisper you've changed. They accuse you of being selfish. They make you feel wrong for wanting more. But remember, those words are not truth. They are chains. They are desperate attempts to keep you from realizing how far you can go without them. Real growth demands courage. The courage to break from familiar patterns. The courage to endure loneliness at first. The courage to step into the unknown. And here's the truth psychology shows us. People who invest in growth expand their sense of self. They strengthen resilience. They heighten emotional intelligence. They no longer absorb every insult. They no longer accept every role handed to them. When you grow, your identity changes. And toxic people cannot interact with the new version of you the way they did with the old one. Growth transforms the rules of engagement. But growth is not always loud. It does not always mean shouting achievements or displaying success. Sometimes it is deeply silent. The book you read when no one watches, the discipline you practice daily, the skills you build slowly, the mindset you sharpen in solitude. Growth is often invisible at first, but undeniable in time. And by the time toxic people realize what you've become, it's too late for them to stop it. You've already outgrown their reach. They may react with anger, gossip, or resistance. They may try to pull you back into old battles, but you must stay forward-focused. The more you argue, the more you engage, the more you explain, the more energy you give them. True growth requires restraint. You no longer need their approval. You no longer need to justify yourself. The silence of your progress is louder than any argument. The best response to their toxicity is not words, it is becoming so elevated that their presence feels irrelevant. Growth also changes your environment. As you rise, you attract strength. You meet new people, new opportunities, new perspectives. Your world expands while theirs shrinks. And this widening of your universe naturally distances you from them. Suddenly, you are surrounded by people who challenge you to be better, not drag you into drama. You no longer crave the validation of those who once drained you. Growth shifts your circle, and that shift is your protection. But remember this, growth is not about revenge. It is not about proving toxic people wrong. That's still giving them too much importance. Growth is about you, about reclaiming your life, about building a future so meaningful that their shadows no longer matter. Every step forward is an act of self-respect. Every boundary held, every skill mastered, every toxic tie cut, it all adds to the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. So rise quietly. Build relentlessly. Expand beyond their patterns, beyond their games, beyond their reach. One day, you will look back and realize they no longer have any hold on you. Not because they changed, but because you did. You became too vast, too strong, too untouchable. And the chains that once bound you, they now lie broken, far behind. As you walk free, grow so far, so high, and so deeply that their hands can no longer reach the person you have become. Peace is not weakness, peace is power. The ultimate victory against toxic people does not come from proving them wrong, exposing their lies, or matching their cruelty with your own. The true victory comes when you choose peace over chaos, silence over argument, and growth over revenge. Toxic people thrive on conflict. They crave the storm. But when you refuse to step into the battlefield they create, you strip them of the only fuel that keeps them alive, your reaction. Peace is the final move. It is not about surrendering, it is about winning in a way that toxic people cannot understand. While they fight for dominance, you fight for freedom. And freedom is greater than control. Psychology shows us that toxic individuals feed on emotional energy. They manipulate, provoke, and twist situations until you feel drained. But when you choose peace, you deny them that energy. You cut off their supply. Suddenly, their games lose meaning, their words lose power, and their control dissolves into nothingness. Choosing peace is not passive. It requires tremendous strength. It requires mastering your impulses, training your emotions, and standing firm in your inner calm while others lose theirs. This is emotional intelligence at its highest level. It is the quiet ability to know when to walk away, when to disengage, and when to rise above. Toxic people want you trapped in endless cycles of reaction. They want you explaining, defending, and fighting for validation. But peace ends the cycle. Peace says, I no longer need your approval. I no longer need to win against you. I win by not playing. This decision reshapes your life. It protects your mental health. It shields your spirit from unnecessary battles. And most importantly, it sends a silent message that cannot be ignored, that you are untouchable. Nothing shakes a toxic person more than realizing they no longer control your emotions. But understand this, peace does not mean silence in the face of injustice. It does not mean allowing abuse. Peace is the refusal to let someone else dictate the rhythm of your soul. It is the active choice to leave behind situations that poison your growth. Sometimes that means walking away. Sometimes it means refusing to argue. Sometimes it means standing still while their noise fades into the background. The beauty of choosing peace is that it creates space. Space for healing, space for clarity, space for new opportunities, healthier connections, and